With dozens of countries right now building and trying to build stealth aircraft, which are nearly invisible to radar, there's actually a technology that's been around for a while that nearly completely negates stealth. Russia operates it in mass numbers and is on nearly every one of the fighter aircraft they have, and that is infrared search and track, or IRST, some calling it IRST. There is a story that's gone around that back in the 90s, the US decided to test IRST against their stealthy F-117, and they were able to track it well beyond the range of radar, virtually destroying the entire value of the F-117, its stealth. I've heard and read a few different versions of the story. Some say it was an F-14, which had an IRST system. Others say it was either a Russian Su-27 or MiG-29 that the US had acquired. But the stories all end the same. The officials quickly ended the tests, buried the reports, and never tried it again, as it revealed that all the billions of dollars they spent, and were still spending, on developing things like the F-22 at the time were a complete waste. Now, whether that actual story is true or not, the underlying issue is true. IRST can and does render most aspects of stealth useless. But before that, our sponsor, NordVPN. It's important to use a VPN for many reasons. Either hackers, websites that track your data, governments watching your internet traffic in case you search something that they don't like, or them even outright blocking your freedom of access to the internet. What you're watching this on, YouTube for example, is either blocked or has been blocked in over 24 different countries by their governments. And as VPNs go, NordVPN is the best. I've worked with them many times before on this channel, and I use them myself. They have over 5,400 servers in 59 different countries and can protect up to 6 different devices at the same time. You get unlimited bandwidth, double data encryption, and much more. They have won multiple awards, including the Best VPN Award, and are always recommended by the experts. So go, use my link in the description below. With it, you get the special deal they have going on right now, 73% off plus an additional 4 months for free. And as always, they always have their 30-day money-back guarantee to ensure that you're satisfied with their service. So again, NordVPN. IRST is typically easily recognizable as a small bump and a ball on the front of aircraft. And you might notice that this is clearly missing from nearly every 4th-gen US fighter, the F-15, F-16, F-A-18, and even the 5th-gen F-22. Despite that, nearly every 4th-gen Russian fighter has it, the Su-27, 30 and 35, the MiG-29 and 35, and even their 5th-gen Su-57. Why that is, I guess, requires a quick explanation of what IRST is. IRST is, as the name implies, a searching and tracking method that uses infrared. It's basically a sensor that can see slightly longer wavelengths than normal cameras or even our human eyes can see. Every object radiates thermal energy. The hotter it is, the more thermal energy it puts out. So, devices have been built that can look at these wavelengths and create a map based on the differences in thermal energy. As you could probably imagine, this works great when you're searching for extremely hot objects, like aircraft with powerful engines, especially when they're up in the sky against a cool backdrop. The first operational IRST system could, in a sense, be the Sidewinder missile. Sidewinder uses infrared to search, detect, and guide itself to a target. The US also put this technology on aircraft, like the F-101, F-102, and F-106. The technology at the time, though, was limited. Its ranges were short, they were not very reliable, and other developing technologies offered superior capabilities. Breakthroughs in radar technology enabled them to be carried by smaller fighter aircraft. They were also more reliable, they had longer detection ranges, and could give you more information, such as the exact range of the target, speed, etc. With the US making real advances in radar technology, they mostly abandoned IRST in the 60s and 70s. On the other hand, the Soviets began using IRST in the 70s on aircraft like the MiG-23. It's reported that US evaluations of Soviet fighters that they had acquired, which had early Soviet IRST systems, showed that their capability wasn't really that great, further cementing their belief that radar was the right direction to go in. And this is why we didn't see IRST systems on US 4th-gen aircraft, again, like the F-15, F-16, etc., with the exception of the F-14 that is. However, the Soviets continued developing the technology and made some significant advances. By the time aircraft like the Su-27 and MiG-29 were developed, their IRST systems were vastly more capable. Up to this point, IRST was just an extra method of detection. It still had more limited capabilities than radar. It really wasn't until stealth aircraft began to become operational that its value skyrocketed. To be clear, stealth is a pretty general term. Stealth technology could be any series of systems, materials, designs, etc. that can make an object more difficult to detect visually by radar, sonar, acoustically, or with infrared. Because radar is the primary method of detection at long ranges, most stealth aircraft focus on that. A lot of stealth aircraft are designed with certain shapes to limit radar returns, but that does nothing to limit its thermal energy. An aircraft might be able to remain completely invisible to radar, but its hot burning engines and the increased temperature of the aircraft's skin from the friction with the atmosphere is easily seen with infrared sensors like IRST. Some stealth aircraft, and even stealthy missiles, will attempt to reduce its heat signature through various methods, such as the B-2 bomber's engine exhaust being recessed, cool air being pumped directly into the engine exhausts, or special paints, etc., but this only does so much. You will never be able to completely eliminate all thermal energy. Better optics and computing power has really made IRST more capable at detecting objects at long ranges. Early systems were really limited to only a few dozen kilometers in optimal conditions, whereas current systems can easily exceed 100 kilometers. Again, under optimal conditions, an IRST system on board a fighter aircraft could theoretically detect an F-35, a stealth aircraft, 44 kilometers away, according to this paper. Compare that to the small, higher frequency radars that fighter aircraft carry, which might only be able to detect it at 10 to 15 kilometers away. And that longer range is extremely valuable when it comes to aerial combat. Often, whoever can detect and shoot a missile first, even if it misses, is at a huge advantage, as they have to maneuver to dodge it, all while the attacker can close in and gain a more advantageous fighting position. This advantage has led Western nations to begin reinvesting in IRST again, especially now that countries like Russia and China are building their own stealth fighters. The Eurofighter Typhoon's Pirate IRST, for example. The US has also began developing external targeting pods, which can act like IRST in aerial combat, and they're now building fuel tanks with an IRST attached. But there are a lot of factors that come into play affecting detection range. If the aircraft is facing away from you, giving you a clear view of their engines, that range will be greater than if it's headed toward you. Also, an aircraft using afterburners will be more easily detected. But one of the biggest factors in detection range is the moisture in the atmosphere. Rain, snow, even clouds can greatly reduce detection range. So, depending on the situation and conditions, IRST can be incredibly valuable in detecting and engaging stealth. Possibly the best combination is IRST on stealth aircraft themselves. This is because another great feature is that the system does not emit any energy itself like radar does. So, it allows them to detect others while remaining hidden. This feature of IRST is valuable for all aircraft, but especially so for stealth aircraft, whose whole purpose it is to remain undetected. The F-35 has what is called the EOTS, which can function similar to IRST. China's J-20 has one as well, and Russia's Su-57 has the typical IRST system mounted on top of the nose that we've seen on their 4th Gen fighters. Another good feature is that, unlike radar, IRST really cannot be jammed. There are very few ways to counter infrared sensors. In the past, flares were real capable against IR-guided missiles, as their simple IR sensors would just lock on to the brightest target. However, today, with IR imaging sensors, they are not as easily fooled. However, there are some drawbacks too. As mentioned, their range is highly constrained by the atmospheric conditions and the situation. Also, IRST alone cannot give you things like range, speed, etc. that a radar can. They can be combined with things like laser rangefinders, but those are much less accurate at longer distances due to the atmosphere. So, IRST has its uses. It's not necessarily better than radar, but offers different capabilities. But one of those capabilities is the ability to detect stealth aircraft at increased ranges, negating a lot of the stealth fighter's advantage in aerial combat.